It was an unbelievable experience. In fact, it was almost surreal flying back from Denver, knowing that we had just locked up a spot in the Super Bowl in Detroit. So those are one of the things that I'll always remember. Nobody can really take it from me, and I just enjoyed the fact that we were one of the two best teams in the NFL. To be able to go out there and play in Detroit for the most televised sporting event in the world. So everything came in perspective once we got back that Monday. And it was a little different than it is with this Super Bowl because they had 2 weeks to prepare for it. We only had 1 week to prepare for it, so we had to get out there. As soon as we got back, we played on Sunday. No, sorry, we played on Saturday. No, it was Sunday. I'm sorry. We played on Sunday, flew back from Denver that night, packed up, and got right on the plane that night to go to Detroit.
Yeah, and you would have to assume that you got a team like Carolina who nobody thought would be here. I mean, I think this is a team that exceeded everybody's expectations. Denver, on the other hand, might have been an underdog. Some people thought that they were good enough to get to this point. So right now, do you think the fact that Carolina is kind of like, us against them, do you like the way that they're going into the Super Bowl? Because the way they've been playing in the playoffs, it almost seems like they've been unchallenged.
Well, they have been unchallenged, I mean, I thought there was all a fluke or almost a hoax leading up when they were 6-0, thinking that, man, come on now, they can't be that good. But just sitting down, and you could tell from the apparent coaching that this team has that they're supposed to be there. I mean, anytime you got a guy like Kirk Coleman, and he just couldn't get right with the Eagles. Nothing he did ever was right with the Eagles. He would bite on the play fakes. He was never back to make those type of plays. And here he is. He has 8 or 9 interceptions. So it just goes to those guys are well coached. Mike Shula, the offensive coordinator, has done a phenomenal job of taking advantage of all of Cam Newton's strengths. He's allowed him to even sit in the pocket and have pinpoint throws down the field. He knew what he had. That's why they gave him a $100 million contract. We just didn't see it. I like the fact that this team comes in there well-balanced. Pick your poison. You want to stop the run, they'll go over the top with the pass. If you want to stop the pass and the run at the same time, you'll get eaten alive. So they're just a well-balanced team. And then when you have a defense that can back it all up also, it just makes you the perfect team to go in and win a Super Bowl because you have the effects of going out there and running the ball and being able to pass it with the play action.
Hey, Barrett, when we used to talk about quarterbacks, it was Brady, Manning, Breeze, Rodgers. They were like the 4. Is Cam Newton for you right now at the top of that list?
Well, absolutely. Cam has always been hovering right around that top 10 area. He's always been a phenomenal as far as his talent, his arm. But I think what's setting him apart, he's willing to listen. He's willing to learn. He's willing to take that next step in his progression in being one of the major quarterbacks in this league. Now, I won't say that he's a top 5 guy, but he's definitely a top 10. And the way he's played this year, he has to be considered one of those top guys in the league.
I don't know that this team's here without him. I mean, you put Andy Dalton or Carson Palmer with Corey Brown and Ted Ginn. Are they playing in the Super Bowl?
Absolutely not. I thought they were a goner when Benjamin was out for the season. Once he tore his knee up, I thought they were done then. Their goose was cooked. But Cam took it upon himself to go out there and dictate to defenses what they need to do to try to stop him, and they still can't stop him. So he said it, right around about week 7 or 8. Hey, if you don't want me to dance, then stop me from getting in the end zone. And nobody's been able to do that since.
And they surely didn't yesterday. He accounted for 4 touchdowns in that game. What happened with Arizona yesterday? I mean, Carson Palmer, 6 turnovers. Many people, Barrett, thought they were the most complete team in the NFL.
And I was one of those guys, But, I think the Eagles have a great part in why they're not playing well. Ever since the Eagles banged his thumb up in the game they had against him, he hasn't played the same. He hasn't had that pinpoint accuracy he had leading up into that Eagles game. If you look at it, a lot of his balls were behind receivers. They weren't as accurate as he usually were. And then we know with the Honey Badger being out the same game and getting knocked out the same game and virtually, being put on IR. The Eagles are a major contributor in the Cardinals' downfall in all actuality.
Well, and they beat the Patriots, which caused them to lose home field advantage too. I mean, if they win that game, they have the game in New England yesterday, and I would assume that changes that kick And I want to get your thoughts on that kick. Did you like, the fact that an extra point really was the difference in the AFC Championship game?
You know what? I think it was a little more than that. I think that New England just got outclassed. Denver was playing at another level. Brady just couldn't get it right. A lot of the times he was on his back. Yes, he is, the best. To me, he's the best quarterback in the league. He's the best quarterback to ever play the position. But he just couldn't get it right. It just goes to show you have to have a reliable offensive line to make it. This offensive line finally showed that they're not as good as everybody thought they were. They played at the level in which they should have been playing at the entire year. And he got beat up, man. He got hit more than any other quarterback this season. So you can't expect to have an offensive line play bad and still expect to be in the Super Bowl, because he just showed no matter how good you are, how fast your decision-making is, you still have to have an offensive line to go out there and make plays.
Sure do, and you wonder how many more chances. I know Brady says he wants to play for a while longer, but how many more chances is he going to get that close? That's something that's probably got to be weighing on him today.
Oh, absolutely. He feels as though he's there. If he had, at least probably three-fifths of his offensive line that, started out the year, he'd be okay. But the fact that you can't just plug and play guys at the offensive line, it's totally different from any position on the field, because the guys need cohesiveness. They need to play together. And these guys have to be good enough to take it to the next level. Just shown by what the Eagles need to do in this preseason. They really need to go out there and find some good guys on the offensive line that can go out and protect who's ever going to be a quarterback this next year coming.
Yeah, we'll get into that in just a bit. I want to ask you about Peyton Manning. A lot of people, really were down on him entering the game. I don't know that he was the reason why they won the game yesterday, but does he show you that he still has one more meaningful game left in that quarterback arm of his?
Well, as you look at it, they did a masterful job of resting him just long enough that he didn't lose what it is to, game tempo of the game, but long enough that he was healthy enough now to go in and lead into the playoff season. So I give a credit to John Elway sitting this guy out and understanding when this guy comes back, he's still going to be the number one quarterback. He's still going to go out there and play at a high level. He's still going to be the guy that they need to take him to the Super Bowl, and he proved it. No matter how bad his throws were, how unsuccessful the offense was at times and anemic at times, he's still the best quarterback. He was the best quarterback on the field yesterday.
What do you think of Belichick's decision on that fourth down to go for it?
That's always been the type of player, type of coach he is. Belichick, I think this year had a little kryptonite in him, with the calls that he had against the Eagles, the fact that he didn't go for the surefire points, he showed that he's human for once in his career. He's definitely been human. So, Belichick's still a great coach, but I think he got out-coached a little bit this year.
All right, we're talking with Barrett Brooks here. We'll look at the Super Bowl more when we talk to Barrett next week, but I want to get your thoughts. The Eagles have locked up Zach Ertz through the 2021 season. They announced today, Barrett, that he gets a 5-year extension, $42.5 million. That's about $8.5 million annually, $20 million in guaranteed, and that makes him the fourth highest paid tight end in the league. Number one, smart move by the Eagles, question mark. And number two, does this indicate that Doug Peterson plans on really making Ertz a big part of his offense?
Well, if you look at it, I think that they're looking at him like a Chad Lewis. Chad Lewis, when he was with the Eagles, ran wide stick nod in that West Coast offense just about as good as anybody in the league. He was one of the major contributors why they were so successful with the offense back when McNabb was there. I don't understand it, because you still have to lock up, probably one of the best free agents going to be on the market, and Fletcher Cox come up here, not this year, but the year after next. So I would have thought I'd try to lock him up. You still have a guy like Nolan Carroll, who still needs to be an integral piece in his defense just because he was the best cover corner that they had last year. He's a free agent this year. They had the safety position locked down for a minute, with Walter Thurman, but he's a free agent this year. Benny Curley's if they're going to go to a 4-3, he has to be one of the pivotal guys to rush the passers, so he's not locked up yet. I think at tight end, Ertz would have been, not to say that he's a guy that you can't use, that you can't do without, but he's definitely not a guy that I would pick of getting, extended when you have, players of that magnitude still out there and still not signed.
That's
so,
big money.
I don't know.
That's
a
big
money.
That's
a lot of money.
That's a lot of money for him.
A quarterback.
Yeah, and right,
Huge money for him.
You just mentioned quarterback, but I want to ask you about Curry, because I think that he now becomes the priority. He almost becomes the most important guy. If you're going to go 4-3 wide 9, you got to make sure that you have an end that can rush the passer.
Absolutely, you definitely have to have an end that can rush the passer. I mean, you have to have somebody that can do it. You know what I mean? So, where do you go from here? Curry is the pivotal piece in running that defense, the type of defense that Schwartz likes to run. So, I don't know. I don't know the line of thinking right now. I don't think anybody knows what the front office still, not knowing who's going to be the football GM, who's going to be the player personnel guy. Where do you go from here?
Is this a move?
Lot of things,
Is this a move, Barrett, that looks like Howie Roseman is back in charge? I mean, is this a Howie Roseman type of deal?
You know what? I think it is Howie. Because it has to be. Because he's the only guy that has the power right now to make those type of decisions besides the owner. I don't know why. Why not sign a guy like Curry, get him off the market? You don't want him to go out there and test free agency, but he's going to command a high dollar just from the fact that although he only has a little bit of film on him, but the film that he does have on him, he's made an impact on opposing offenses. So,
and keep in mind, Barrett, that there's a team in your own division that desperately needs a pass rusher. How big of a loss would it be if the Giants were able to pursue and get Curry and take him from Philly and move him to New York? How much of a shift would there be from just that one signing?
Well, it'll just put the deep offense in a position where he's just another guy in the conference that you would have to block. Of course, they have a big free agent on their side that they need to sign too, but Curry will probably be one of the guys that a lot of teams are going to try to do it. If he goes to the Giants, oh my goodness, that'll just be one more guy that you say, all right, he has a chip on his shoulder and he wants to go out there and prove that you guys made a mistake. And you don't need anybody else out there proving that they made a mistake. And we don't want another D-Jacks on our hands. Believe that.
Well, yeah, and that would be interesting. The Giants finished 30 in the league in sacks. There's been some murmurs up there that Curry's a guy that would intrigue them. So that could be a big shift. Whenever you lose a guy inside your own division, that makes a lot of waves. And Curry's been under the radar, but he's probably sitting there, Barrett. He knows that he's about to get paid one way or another.
Oh, absolutely. Just like Sam Bradford's thinking the same thing. He can hear it now. He can hear the boop, boop, boop from the trucks backing up to pay him, whether it's going to be from the Eagles or whether it's going to be from the other 5 or 6 teams that need quarterbacks in this league. So, this is going to be an interesting, to say the least, free agency period for us.
No doubt. And we know the rumors about Bradford that his agent asked for $25 million. Right now, that seems like a lot of money. The most reasonable thing seems to be franchise them and then see what happens when you move on from that. But who knows? I know Zach.
There'll still be $25 million. You franchise them. He'll still be $25 million if you let him go into free agent. The safest bet is to see if you can lock up something long-term with him, so that you'll have to pay anywhere from $19 to $21 million over a longer period of time. So you have to lock up a couple of years, but he's still a young guy as far as football years. As far as being a quarterback, he's only played. He's going into his 6th year, so this could be a pivotal point in Howie Roseman's career as being the guy and making personnel decisions, So let's see where he goes from here.
All right. Barrett Brooks won the Super Bowl with the Pittsburgh Steelers, of course, played for the Eagles, and you can see him every weekday morning from 6 to 8 a.m. on Breakfast on Broad on the Comcast Network, and watch the replay from 8 to 10 over there on Comcast Sportsnet, and, of course, Barrett here on Mondays as we look at the NFL. All right, brother, we'll see you next week.
Take it easy, bro.